Hey, we are back. You know what? It's only right. It's only right that we start this show off right. How about them Chiefs? Good evening. Good evening. This is the Red Hour. If you have been under a rock for the past 3 seasons, we have been doing this show. The first year we were down at Soiree Steak and Oyster House. This year we will be back there. This is the only day that we'll be doing the show virtual. I am Steve Walls, one of the hosts of the show, joined by Darren Smith, the other host, and also DJ Q. What's happening, guys?
Cute. Man, it's good to be back.
Yeah,
Man. Been waiting for one of these for a year now, so it feels old, but it feels brand new, man. So let's do it. Let's do what we do best.
for sure, for sure. And momentarily we will be joined by the other host, Uncle Sean Tyler. He'll be coming in on the show as well. Now, what Chiefs fans want us to start talking about is this Chiefs versus the Cleveland Browns. The Chiefs defeated the Browns yesterday, 24-21. Let's start with the offensive side of the ball. The question coming into this game was not only Tyrann Mathieu, we'll get to him, but it was also the offensive line. Now, Darren, we'll start with you. Offensive line, was there what was it? What the hype was meant to be? You know, how did they fare in your eyes?
When you look at it, big picture, they did live up to the hype. Of course, they gave up 2 sacks, but when you have your quarterback dropping that many times, sooner or later, he's going to get touched. And the second sack that was given up, which was the first for Orlando Brown, Patrick took 12 steps back. I mean, so you can only hold on to your man so long before he's going to get around you. So that one, I think Lucas Niang, I don't know if it was nerves or whatever in the second quarter, because he gave up a sack, and then immediately right after that he had a false start. So I don't know if that was just nerves or just he just got the better of him. But overall, they were Patrick was pressured a lot. Creed Humphreys, to his credit, he didn't give up any quarterback pressures or any sacks, but he did get down the field a little bit too far, kind of forgetting he was in the NFL and not college. But overall, I would grade the offensive line a B-. I don't want to give him an A or A plus, because as Andy Reid told us in the presser last night, Steve, there's always room for improvement. So I want to give him that latitude for that.
Now, Chiefs quarterback Patrick Mahomes, 27 of 36, 337 yards, 3 touchdowns. And one of those touchdowns was to the one and only Tyreek Hill, a 75-yard bomb. Q, what's your take on this offense, for the first game of the 2021 season?
I think they were still trying to get acclimated to each other. You've seen them start a little bit slow. I think the offensive line is going to have to gel. I think the shoes that they have to fill, even being just a new unit, coming off that Super Bowl, the expectations are high, especially from the fan base, especially in media, especially whoever's watching. Everybody's looking to see this team protect Patrick Mahomes, and I think they did a pretty good job of that. Cleveland has a fairly good defense and a fairly good front seven. They aren't a pushover.
Right.
I won't say they're the best in the league. I won't say that they're anything near what Tampa Bay was in the Super Bowl. But they having Clowney, I definitely think makes a difference for them. But the Chiefs offense, I think they'll be fine. I don't know how tall of a task it is to replace Sammy. But I don't think it's much it's going to take to replace him and really fill those shoes. I think they did fine yesterday. I feel like their ceiling's a lot higher than what they're playing, but again, it's week 1. I feel like they'll probably need to face some good defenses over the first couple of weeks to really get, you got to get knocked around a little bit before you really reach that peak. And I think for them, they probably won't peak anywhere between week 6 and 10, but staying healthy, knock on wood, but staying healthy, I think they'll be fine, and they'll reach their peak pretty fast.
Q, I think we'll be able to judge them by the time we get to week 7. I think by week 7 you would have faced 5 teams that were 12 teams last year. And look, we talk about defenses. Cleveland, they upgraded their defense a lot this offseason, as you mentioned, Clowney and stuff, and of course we know what Myles Garrett is all about. In 2 weeks they'll be facing Bosa. next week in Baltimore, of course, Baltimore's known, to have a good defense, especially a good run defense. So we'll
especially
get
that
a
front
chance.
seven.
Exactly. So we get a chance with it. And then, of course, when they face Washington next month as well, the Washington football team, and we know what Chase Young and that defense could do last year, perhaps they'll bring it again this year. So, like you said, I think if they get through those first 7 games, if they can get through unscathed for the most part, not give up as many, give up 2 or less sacks, I think this offensive line is going to be one to reckon with.
Now you look at the passing, Tyreek Hill, 11 receptions. You had Travis Kelce, 6 receptions and for 76 yards. Tyreek Hill, 197 yards, and then you have that's where you had a drop off. You had your running back that was the 3rd in receptions with 3 with 29 yards, and Clyde Edwards-Helaire. So then following up is Mecole Hardman. So I know Q, you mentioned Sammy. I want to say that Chiefs fans, it takes a lot for Chiefs fans for a player to get on the Chiefs fans like a no-fly list, right?
Yes.
And I think Mecole is kind of getting to that point. I don't want to say he's there, but I want to say that he's getting to that point. And I know he's still young, but I think and I know this is only game 1 of this season, right? But here's the thing: you are expected to step up, and if I'm not mistaken, I don't think he caught a pass until the second half. So and I know Patrick was asked in post game about, you didn't spread the ball around like normal, but he said, well, I could have, basically, because there were other guys that were open.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
He did actually, and Steven, he did actually mention that Mecole was open in the end zone. He just, he just went a different direction.
So I know it's a small sample size. Don't get on me, but it's just, I feel like he should give more.
But I think for Chiefs fans, and this is from an outside looking in, I think you all, I won't say you all expect greatness, because every team expects greatness out of the guys that make the 53-man roster. Like, everybody expects you to be great and play to your fullest potential. I think for Chiefs fans, Tyreek Hill has set the bar way too high. So you have Tyreek and you have Travis, who are 2 of the top, we could say 5 receivers, especially statistically and impact wise. They are 2 of, if not top 5, 2 of the top 10 in the league. So the next man down, he has a lot of shoes to fill, and it's looking like a D-Rob. It's looking like a Mecole. D-Rob, he's been in the league a little too long to still be the bubble player, and I think more of the fan base is more worried about D-Rob than they are Mecole. Mecole, I don't see him as a guy that spot is not solidified. I think he's solidified himself over the last 2 seasons as far as like being a weapon. Now, as far as being the next man up, so if there happens to be a next man up situation, I don't think fans are really confident in Mecole, but I think Mecole can feel that. I think he's one of those Mighty Mouse type of players where his size and the things that keeps him off of being that top talented receiver, he can fill those shoes if somebody's to go down.
And as Brian Johnson said, Pat doesn't trust Mecole. It's pretty clear. That comes into question. Because here's the thing, and we see it year in and year out. Somebody will go down, and what do Chiefs players and Andy Reid and offensive coordinators and everyone, they say it's next man up mentality. And we'll talk about that a little later in the show. However, it does it take for Tyreek, knock on wood, to go down, or Travis to go down, and someone else has to be forced into that limelight?
I mean, did Chase Daniels get good? Like his rookie year out, like his first time starting? No, it took a couple of times for him to step up and really get to that game speed. But I don't think it's that. I think it's Mecole just finding where he fits, and this season is going to be his season to see that.
I'm a somewhat disagree. I think it's more of a situation where you just have to make the most of your opportunities when the opportunity presents itself. We talk about it all the time where as Eric Bieniemy says, they teach their backups to, they prepare the backups to be starters. When you got someone like Byron Pringle and, Mecole, he's in the starting lineup, but even Demarcus Robinson, when you come in, if Patrick's throwing you the ball, you have to do your part where you catch the ball and help move the chains or whatever. Because if you do that and move the chains, Patrick will come back to you if the opportunity presents itself. Like if if you make a drop, if you stop running or whatever, well, yeah, Patrick's not going to trust you because he can't trust that you either know the playbook, know the play, know your route, and or saying if he throws it to you. He may be afraid that you might not run out fast enough and get the ball intercepted, something like that. So you have to put yourself in a position to make set plays when your numbers drawn up, or if the other two wide receivers, Hill or Kelsey are covered, if Patrick comes to you, you have to make sure that you do your job. And if you don't do your job, then it's going to be hard for you to, to perform.
And I feel like McCole does that because even in I think it was the third quarter when the Chiefs were kind of starting to get their momentum, I think it was an option route and Kelsey went inside and he should have went outside. And he would have been wide open. And I think Pat ended up scrambling or something that happened. So it just kind of shows you those little things that it's the first game and they're kind of just off a little bit.
Well, that part, Q, I think is true. But the other thing would be is that, yes, you mentioned one particular play, but we're talking about 2 seasons worth of stuff with where that's where the whole trust factor comes in at. Like Tyreek, look, we saw where Tyreek became. First he went from a punter, and then and then of course he worked in the offseason to become a number 1 wide receiver with Alex Smith before Patrick came on there. McCole hasn't made that transition yet, and he hadn't put in the work that Tyreek has to be someone that can be trusted to be a top 5 caliber receiver.
Yeah. And to that point, and that's what I've been saying. All last season is like, okay, we didn't see the transition of Tyreek Hill until they pulled him from punt return. He did kickoff return, he did punt return. When they pulled him from that, and he was just a straight receiver. When he, the whole thing was, oh, I'm not just a punt returner. I can also, go and catch the ball. I'm working on my route tree, the whole 9. Well, McCole is now he didn't do punt return. Well, he did punt return yesterday, but it was only because the Browns didn't punt until
fourth
quarter, right? And so I feel like, does he need to be removed from punt return, removed from those duties in order to just focus solely on being a wide receiver? Now, that's a question that can definitely be asked because, it takes a lot of focus to, all right, I'm worried about punt return here. I'm taking extra hits and then going, and it's like the do it all guy, right? It takes a different kind of cat. Now we understood that Tyreek Hill can do it just because he's a different makeup, but McCole, I don't think is that.
True, hold on, Q. But to your very point, though, the difference is that happened. Remember, Tyreek came in as a specialist, and he did play some wide receiver his rookie year. But he took it upon himself because he said he wanted to be. He took it upon himself between year 1 and year 2. When they came back for training camp, that he worked on the route tree. He worked on his wide receivers because he worked on all that, where he didn't have to, he wasn't told, by Andy or someone, hey, come work. He took that upon himself. McCole, it seems that we're trying to suggest it and tell him and stuff, and instead of him just, okay, I'm just going to, I'm going to just do it. I need to work with the Chiefs wide receiver coach or somebody in the offseason to better myself as a wide receiver so I can perhaps be taken off of special teams or kickoff return and be able to focus on that.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. Coming up, we're going to have a friend of the show, Darren Cherry, the one and only. He doesn't need to be, hyped up, but it's Darren Cherry. So we're going to have him on our show in just a little bit. We'll be right back. And we are back. This is the Red Hour. If you're just tuning in, this is the only Kansas City Chiefs talk show that you need to be tuned into each and every Monday night, 6:30 to 7:30 p.m.
How do I say it? Is there any other that we need to know about?
I don't know. I have no idea. That's what I'm saying. So it doesn't matter. Whether you're watching us on Facebook Live, whether you're watching us on our respective social media pages, or even YouTube, you can find us anywhere. So there's no excuse. Just pick up your phone and type in at the Red Hour KC, and it'll pop up. Google us. It'll pop up there as well. We are just a few minutes going to be joined by the one and only Mr. Darren Cherry. Fellas, I want to talk before we bring Darren on. I want to talk about the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah.
There was a lot of questions coming into this game about Tyrann Mathieu. Would he play? Would he not play? He was on the COVID-19 list. He supposedly had COVID. It was reported. So Andy Reid, after the game, said that he made the decision. Tyrann was ready to play. But Andy made the ultimate decision that he didn't want him to play. He missed 2 weeks, and so he wanted to keep him out of this game. Q, I'll start with you. What were your thoughts when you heard that Tyrann Mathieu would not be playing?
I mean, the conversations that we had leading up to the week, I didn't think he was going to play. As far as him being ready right before kickoff, I mean, yeah, that may have been, but I just know I saw a lot of the thing circulating was just people saying that he's going to get paid for sure after this week, which, could be, but I don't know if he makes that defense that we saw any better yesterday.
And joining us in on the show, we have the one and only former Kansas City Chiefs safety, Darren Cherry, joining us. Darren, good afternoon. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Pretty good. You're joined by myself, Darren Smith, and also DJ Q. First things first, I want to know what you think about this Kansas City Chiefs offensive side of the ball after the game that you've seen from yesterday.
Well, I think they've got some good things going. I think that offensive line is going to have to gel a little more, and I think they get that by playing with one another more. It's basically a whole revamped offensive line from last year. So I think it's only the more they play together, the better off they're going to be. And I think that's going to help them. But I did see some good things, especially in the running game. Of course, with Travis Kelce and all the rest of the guys, it's, how are you going to stop them? So, I mean, our offense is going to be good. Providing they can stay healthy and continue to protect Patrick, I think they're going to be okay. They're going to be in good shape.
Now, I know coming into this season, the main question was, how would the running game be? They were too pass heavy, and I know Andy Reid and Eric Bieniemy said that they wanted to, level it out a little bit, make it more even. What are your thoughts on that? Do you see this running game being solid enough to compare with the offense?
I see it being solid. Time is going to tell how much Andy, believes in those guys up front, that he can, run when he needs to run. I think we saw it a little bit in the second half yesterday, where they started out really running, trying to wear that defense down, wear that pass rush down. And I think it helped them on a few of those drives. But I think as the season goes on, they're going to have to be more consistent with that. So I just, I guess my biggest concern for the running game is how well Edwards-Helaire will hold up throughout the entire season. He's going to take some shots. So they're going to have to utilize some other backs and be a little more balanced in that attack.
Yeah, hopefully we'll get a chance to see some more of Jerick McKinnon. I know he had 4 carries four carries on yesterday. But Darren, this is Darren Smith. I'm curious. The Chiefs were without 2 of their top 3 defenders yesterday, Tyrann Mathieu and Frank Clark. What were your impressions on the defense? Obviously, they made some big changes from the first half to the second half. But what did you see out of Steve Spagnuolo's defense yesterday that impressed you?
Well, it showed that they were missing a couple of their key players yesterday. I can tell you that in the first half. I wasn't very pleased with the performance in the first half. I think I saw a lot of guys out of position. I think they were looking into the backfield instead of reading their cues, and they got burnt on a lot of play-action passing, especially our linebackers who had the responsibility of covering tight ends and backs out of the backfield. They got caught up in looking, hard at the run, and that's what Cleveland does. They got 2 tremendous backs, and they try to run the ball and get you thinking run all the time, and then all of a sudden Baker is really good with his play action. And so I think they hurt the Chiefs in the first half a lot on that type of play action, and they're going to have to correct that. And the other thing I didn't see all too well until late in the game was pressure on Baker Mayfield.
Yeah.
It seemed like he had a lot of time to sit back in that pocket and throw the ball to wide open receivers. And I don't think you can give a quarterback who's that good and that accurate that much time to throw the ball. So when you think about it, Frank Clark having him available would have helped, getting some more pressure. And then also Tyrann on the back end. I think there's a couple times I saw he probably could have made some plays or picked the ball off had he been in the game. But, hey, we got through this game. First game with this defense, especially with having a few backups. So I was pretty pleased with the outcome, even though I think we got a lot of work to do defensively to be a top 10 defense in this league.
Now, Coach Reed said today in his presser that he's expecting Tyrann Mathieu back next week. There is a good chance that we'll see Frank Clark, but of course, Frank, was out of most of training camp and didn't play in any preseason games due to a hamstring. So I'm not sure what his conditioning and what his worth on the field is going to be. But knowing that the 2-headed monster that the Chiefs faced on Sunday, and knowing that they're going to be facing a running team in the Baltimore Ravens, we'll see what they look like in about a half hour or so. But knowing that they're going to face them next Sunday night, what do you think, in your opinion, especially when a team runs the 4-2-5 type of defense, that they need to do to improve to make sure that they don't have a repeat performance that may have a different outcome next Sunday night?
Well, of course, we know that the Ravens would be interested to see how they handle their running back situation with all their running backs being out, and how they're going to utilize, the current running backs that they have. And the Ravens, of course, you said the 2-headed monster, the running attack, and then you got to be worried about the quarterback too, running and escaping. And Lamar Jackson is quite a talented young man. So when you think about what he can do to a defense, you really have to be careful how you react on the defensive side. But I like our chances more against him because he's a running quarterback and he can make plays, and you're going to have to account for him on the defensive side. The secondary, they got to come up and they got to make tackles. I've seen a lot of missed tackles yesterday, and we're going to play against a Baltimore Ravens team like that runs the football. And you've got to be able to tackle and hold them to a minimum amount of game and get that quarterback in uncomfortable 3rd and long situations. And if you can do that, I think we're going to be okay.
Now, Darren, I have to ask you, big picture, right? I want to ask you, what do you think the overall record will be for this season? And on top of that, is this a Super Bowl or bust type year?
I don't think it's a Super Bowl or bust type of year. I think we won't know what the identity of this team is for a few weeks. And, they're starting out with an unbelievable schedule. They're going to have to go to Philadelphia. The Eagles played good against Atlanta, even though I think Atlanta is a little weaker as a football team right now, considering they've had a coaching change. But I'd like to see in over time what this team looks like and how they develop on that offensive line, and then as they get their players back defensively, how they're going to start to attack teams. I was impressed with Nick Bolton yesterday. He shows a lot of athletic ability, a lot of speed, ability to make plays and attack the line of scrimmage. And as he gets more experience in there, I don't think you can keep him out of the lineup. He's just too talented a player.
Mm-hmm.
Darren, just one other question, I guess, for me. Because you're part of the Chiefs ambassador, I
think we just lost. We just lost Darren.
If he comes back, then
we'll be back with him in just a second. Now, it's funny to hear a former defensive guy, right? It's funny to hear him when he talks about the lack of tackling. And
there's a lot of arm tackling.
But that was one of the questions that I asked Spags early before the first preseason game,
mm-hmm.
and that was his main concern because they don't get a chance to tackle him.
Have him back. Darren, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Sorry about that. I'm driving.
Oh, that's all good. The question I had for you, Mr. Trey, was, with you being a member of the Chiefs ambassadors, do they from time to time, especially for position groups like that, have they brought you in to maybe talk to defensive backs? Maybe perhaps share your expertise at all, especially when it comes to tackling and those things of that nature, or do they just, do they not bring you all in to try to pick your brain at all?
No, they haven't brought us in. I think, those coaches that they have are really good. Andy, I think one of the things about Coach Reed is, he has great coaches and they coach really, really well. And, early in the season, tackling is always an issue.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like back in the old days where you had, you had 2 days of pads. So you were hitting multiple times in each practice, so you got used to tackling. Here, it takes a little bit before the season gets going to get these guys in that mode of, tackling the right way instead of just trying to lay your shoulder in on somebody instead of wrapping your arms and bringing your legs with you to get them down. The object is to get the guy down regardless of how many yards he's gained. You want to minimize the gains all the time. So they'll get better tackling as the season goes on. But I think that Coach Reed has a tremendous staff, and those guys coach them up pretty good.
Now, I know you talked a little bit about the Tyrann Mathieu and missing Frank Clark.
He broke up,
have you noticed a huge difference though without Tyrann being out there? Because I know I have.
Oh yeah, that's a huge difference. Let's face it. I mean, the other guys aren't as, how can I say, experienced
mm-hmm.
in the game as he is. I mean, he knows everything. He does an incredible job of studying film, so he's able to take chances. Plus, no one gives him that opportunity to do that. So, they tailor that defense a lot to him when they bring in 5 defensive backs and. They allow him to roam and to make plays. So there's always going to be a little drop off. But I thought yesterday that both the safeties did a good job. They made some plays. They got burned on some plays too, but they made some plays when they had to. And Juan Thornhill made a big play at the in the third quarter, fourth quarter where he knocked the pass down. They could have been a big play for the Browns and got them some more momentum going. But he made that play, and that's what you're asking guys to do, to step up and make plays. And he stepped up yesterday and made some plays. So, and then Sorensen, of course, had it not been for him, trying to tackle Baker Mayfield on that last play, he always seems at some point in the game to make a big play that either seals the game or wins the game for this football team. So you got to give him credit. He can go along, making some mistakes, missing some coverages, but he always comes up with a big play. So, and he's versatile. So that's why he plays. And so, you're always going to miss a step when Tyrann's not out there, but these guys have stepped up, over the past 3 years, and so you got to give them credit.
It's funny you say that because that's Steve. I was literally I was going to ask him about Juan Thornhill and of course his nose for the ball, of course, because he caused a fumble, and then we talk about it might have been preseason, but even against Arizona, he had a nose for the football to get the interception in the end zone. I just want to ask you because look, I'm old school. I loved it when you and Albert Lewis and the rest of you all. How would that defensive backfield play, or how would that look in Steve Spag's system with Patrick Mahomes as a quarterback, with them getting the amount of points and the damage that you all will cause on the defensive end? How would you play with this team in today's era?
Well, we could play just about any style you wanted to play. I mean, the secondary that we had was very, very capable and very interchangeable, like these guys are right now. You don't have to consider a guy, a strong safety or a weak safety. You just consider him a safety where whoever goes, they can cover a guy in coverage, whether it's on the slot or, backs out of the backfield. And that's what you need. So under this system, I mean, I would have loved to play in this system because you have the freedom to make plays, come up and make tackles, hit people, intercept passes. So it gives you that option and ability, I think, in this defense. And, when you think about it, dominant players, right? They've got Chris Jones right now, who's a dominant pass rusher. We had Derek Thomas, and Neil Smith. Right. So when you consider that and with Spag's scheme, how much more could he have done with, having players that we had and making it happen? And then when you talk about Patrick Mahomes as the quarterback, I mean, guys, if we had Patrick Mahomes as a quarterback, I mean, we would have went through and won. I mean, we would be considered probably a dynasty at that time because, that was the missing link, right? That was the missing part of the equation. And, when you got a special talent like that, a once-in-a-generational player that he has become in such a short time in the NFL, I mean, come on. I would have loved to spend some, just give me 2 or 3 years with the guy. That's
right.
I would have been happy. I would have been very happy.
Now, one final question before we let you go. I have to ask you, you talked about Patrick Mahomes, and it seems to me that a lot of teams and players around the NFL, when asked about Patrick Mahomes, and if they have, let's just say the Chiefs are down, by a touchdown or two, the other teams are like, they have to keep their foot on the gas because he's a guy that can, bring them back at any moment, right? One big play. I just want to get your thoughts on that. Do you always feel like, if the Chiefs are down, that they're able to come back at any moment?
Oh, no question. No question. When you have the players that he has, the supporting cast, I mean, I don't know, Cleveland yesterday, I mean, I know they were trying to stop, Tyreek Hill from getting beat, but they couldn't stop him. Mm-hmm. They were trying to stop Travis Kelce. They were putting everybody and their mother on him. They couldn't stop him. I mean, so when you got players like that can make plays, and they're coming, and that the other team is double teaming them sometimes, and they still can't cover them. Mm-hmm. I mean, you got to feel really, really confident that at the end of the game that this guy. And I mean, he reminds me a lot of Joe Montana at the end of the game. Nothing bothers him. Nothing affects him. He's just going to go down there, cool, calm, and collected, and he's going to make plays. And that's a special thing. John Elway could do that, at the end of the game, bring his team back, by making plays with his arm. And Patrick's the same way. He just seems to have that, that type of leadership that guys give it that extra. When you got a quarterback that can make throws and make plays like that, and you have to give him credit. And this team is never out of the game. I don't care what you say. I was in Miami at that Super Bowl, and everybody thought, the Chiefs were done. And within a span of 7 minutes, they turned what looked like a losing cause into a Super Bowl championship. So never doubt that guy. I mean, he's got that capability that few quarterbacks have. only the great ones have it, and he's one of the great ones right now.
It's funny you said it, Ron, because that's very true. Because even when Steve and I, we were out and Q, we were all in Tampa at the Super Bowl watching the game. Even to the fourth quarter, I'm like, okay, Patrick's got it. He's going to work some. I know he ain't got a touchdown yet, but something's going to happen. Now, Tampa Bay had other ideas, but even then, I still kept thinking Patrick can pull something out of his hat. So no, that's it. That's exactly true. I mean, only the great ones and only special people have that type of talent. Obviously, he's one. Tom Brady is another that that can pull a rabbit out of their hat like that.
Yeah, you look at we watched last Thursday night. I mean, you watch Brady. I mean, everybody's looking there. I was with Neil Smith and Chris Okoye and Donnie Edwards. We were watching the game together, and Neil was like, "Hey, there's too much time. They didn't give them too much time, dude. They have too much time." Sure enough, in a minute and 30 seconds, he marches all the way down the field, and they put them in a position to kick that field goal and win the game. So, you got special talents, and Patrick Mahomes has a special talent, a special ability. And he gets it done, and that's what's important. And that's why those guys play as hard as they play for 60 minutes. It's because you're never out of it until that final whistle blows when you have a quarterback that has that ability and capability, and he has the weapons to go alongside of him to be able to make those plays and get the job done.
Well, Mr. Cherry, we really appreciate you giving us your time today. Hopefully, sometime before the season's over, we'll be able to get you in person down at Soiree when we do our show live.
Absolutely. We'll enjoy doing that for you guys.
Okay, sir. Safe travels to you.
Thank you very much.
All righty. Thank you.
Right. Thank you.
All right, that was former Chief Safety Mr. Darren Cherry, All-Pro. Just gave us a good 15, 20 minutes, man. You will not find that anywhere else, I promise you, other than the Red Hour. We're going to take a quick break. Coming up, we're going to dive into next week's game versus the Baltimore Ravens. We'll be right back. Welcome back. This is the Red Hour with myself, Steve Walls, Darren Smith. We're only missing one, Uncle Sean Tyler. He'll be back next week as we will be live down at Soiree Steak and Oyster House located in the 18th Divine Jazz District. Remember, you can always follow us on each one of our respective platforms. We'll give you where you can find us later on in the show. But want to talk about next week's game against the Baltimore Ravens. Darren, I'll start with you. What's it going to take for this Chiefs team to pull out a victory up in Baltimore?
Got to be able to tackle. Got to be attacking the running backs, whoever they may be, Latavius Murray or whoever they decide to have lined up in the backfield.
Le'Veon Bell of all people.
Yeah. No, true. I mean, because look, Le'Veon Bell, dude, for him, this is a revenge game. For whatever reason that's going around in his head. I mean, it might be a revenge game for him. So he feel like he has something to play for. So in Kansas City, look, they. Against Baker Mayfield, Josh Allen, and Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs are 8-0 against him. Obviously, you want to move to 9-0. And so they, the Chiefs don't have to really do too much. They just have to, limit their mistakes, limit the missed tackles. Obviously, Patrick Mahomes hasn't thrown any interceptions in the month of September. So, kind of keep that streak going. Take care of the football. and hopefully, if you can, try to have something remotely resembling a balanced attack. Kind of like what they did in Arizona, where they rushed for 150 some yards and threw for 350. So you want to see something like that. So hopefully, as Mr. Trey mentioned before, that that Clyde Edwards-Helaire and others, Darrell Williams, will be able to do something behind this offensive line. So because if you become too dependent on Patrick Mahomes, and teams are just going to run what Tampa Bay did with that cover two, and look, they're going to force you to run the football. And if you can't run the football, then they're going to be sending everybody after Patrick.
Now, the Baltimore Ravens, of course, play tonight, Monday Night Football, in Allegiant Stadium. That's in Las Vegas versus the Raiders. Now, this is the first time that the Raiders will have a crowd out there.
Yeah.
Of course, last year, COVID nixed all that. But, Q, I want to ask you, what do you need to see tonight from either team to show what the Chiefs are going to be up against when they play each team?
I mean, the Ravens, we need to see them spread the ball around. We need to see Lamar not be Superman. We saw Patrick kind of let the game come to him, especially in the fourth quarter, especially being down pretty much the whole game. And I think for Lamar, it needs to be that. It needs to be slowing down a bit. Now, this Raiders team might be a little better. Is especially since they made somewhat of a step up last year, and so this year, you guys probably wouldn't hope this, but I would hope that they would step up this year, especially third year with Gruden being there. You would hope that they had
fourth or fifth.
This is fourth now. Yeah,
he's been there for a while now.
And that's what I'm saying. The first couple of years, he's already gotten under his belt. So this team should be firing on all cylinders. I don't think there's many holes in what they've done outside of last year. I don't think they're missing too many players. But yeah, I think it'll be a good game. I think it'll be one of those games where the Raiders are going to be fighting to contain Lamar. And it probably won't be hard since their offense is so depleted. So, but I mean,
I think
I'll say Sammy just trying to get into the offense, especially leading up in the next week.
Right.
And I would like to see Le'Veon play, but who knows if he plays tonight or not. But I would like to see him play just to get some reps in.
I'll say this, Steve, to some of Q's points, is that if you're a Raiders fan, one, you should expect to win tonight's game. One,
yes.
I mean, one, you're at home, you open up a new stadium with fans. Be kind of embarrassing for you to lose, a prime time game. But also, here's the thing: with all the rash of serious, and these are serious injuries that they have, they're without Marcus Peters, and Peters help bolster, that defense, especially that defensive backfield. This is an opportunity that if you can't beat Baltimore when they're literally at their lowest right now, and the season's just starting, you're gonna have a long season.
Long season.
And to be honest, offensively, the Raiders, we know they can put up points because they technically outscored Kansas City combined in those two games that they played last year. So we know they can score points. The thing is, whether or not on the defensive side, I like the Raiders in this game. I mean, shockingly to say the least, and I think it is because of the injuries that they've suffered for Baltimore. But I really do like the Raiders in tonight's game, and if they lose, I think it's a long season, but obviously you're not getting off on a good track if you lose, because the other two teams, I think in the division, I think the Chargers won yesterday, but of course with the Broncos winning, you don't want to be the only team going on one this weekend.
I was just getting ready to say that all the teams in the AFC have won. Yep. It's up to the Raiders now. And here's the thing about it: this AFC. It's the last year was the strongest I've ever seen the AFC in my lifetime, right? I mean, you had a number of teams that had 10 wins, and I think this year you'll have another round of teams that will win at least 12 games, 11 to 12 games. I believe.
For sure, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah. I'm this Raiders team. I want to see what they're able to do, but I also want to see what the Chiefs are up against next week heading into Baltimore, because again, you're going to have Le'Veon Bell. If he plays tonight, he's going to want to it's going to be something if he's able to do what Kareem Hunt tried to do, to the Chiefs last year and then try to do again this year. So, and also Sammy Watkins, if he stays healthy enough in this game, and then
and Justin Houston
as well. So, I mean, you have a number of guys, a bunch of storylines that can make it interesting. But I mean, all these teams are playoff teams. I mean, the Ravens, Lamar Jackson won his first playoff game last year. The Raiders, of course, were 8-8. Still, they beat the Chiefs last year.
Yeah.
So these are definitely two teams that, I mean, should be watching tonight. It's going to make for some good football.
Steve, I want to add right quick too before you jump in and this kind of goes to Keith's point. The Chiefs, and this is just my opinion, but I think it would behoove Kansas City to not just run away with the division. I think, now I don't mind them, sweeping the division, but if the division can at least be competitive, like we see the NFC West, like that conference can legitimately probably send all four of those teams to the playoffs, depending on, how their season turns out. I think it would behoove Kansas City to where if you got a competitive Denver team, Raiders team, and of course, what we think of the Chargers, I think that only bolsters Kansas City's chances of performing well in the playoffs, because I think that makes them better. If you can come out of a tough division and, Kansas City, if they have the best record and stuff like that, I think it will build enough character for them to, make that move into the playoffs, because I honestly, I'm starting to think maybe outside of the Bucs because they're the defending champions, but if outside the Bucs, I think anybody from the NFC West can legitimately make it to the Super Bowl, because that's going to be a tough division, out of that conference over in the NFC. And I think, to your point, Q, that for the Raiders, I mean, we need them to be somewhat decent. We don't want them to be a team that goes 4-13 this year.
I don't think they're gonna be that bad.
Yeah,
I really don't. I really don't. But you know what? I think when you look at the AFC, I mean, the AFC North, I think is by far, I think the AFC North, maybe the AFC South is probably, next runner up of strong, in the division. I'm not really sure about. I mean, the AFC West is a very strong division. Don't get me wrong, because I think the Chargers, they're right there. They're I
think the Broncos defensively, I think their defense is legit. And Teddy Bridgewater, again, he may not win you the best of games, but I don't think he's going to put you in a position to lose. And we kind of saw that yesterday. Granted, it was against the New York Football Giants, but you got to start somewhere.
Exactly. But I really think that, the AFC West, they're still top heavy with Kansas City. A more even division, you would have to be the AFC North. I mean, the Steelers are strong. Other than the Bengals, you have the AFC East, Dolphins, Patriots, Bills, Jets. I would say it's pretty about the same as the North. But I mean, if I could say, and before we leave today, we're gonna get our predictions in, but so there won't be any discrepancies at the end.
We'll have it on tape.
Exactly. We're gonna see if Mr. Smith has a 17-0 or 20-0 prediction. Yeah, he's done it 2 years in a row. Q, we're gonna see. But I mean, I'm interested to see this Ravens team, just how they perform, because I mean, coming into last season, you remember the all the naysayers for Lamar Jackson were just, he has to be more a better passer. He just can't run the ball. He can't be, the Michael Vick that people are making him out to be. So will he be able to pass the ball? Has he worked on that in the offseason? I think that is what I'm wanting to see tonight. If he's able to, I would say 200 yards passing at least.
He ain't had his receivers to work with. That's the scary part.
Yeah, he has to make them better. And that's the thing about good quarterbacks. They can you can put anybody on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, or even when Tom Brady was with the Patriots, you can put anybody out there and he will make them better. And I think that's what great elite quarterbacks are able to do.
Yes and no, because when you look at a lot of different quarterbacks, they need to be able to step up, and they need to be able to gradually get better. I don't think Baltimore has put a receiving core around him that has gradually gotten better in the past 3 years. I think a lot of it falls on them not putting the pieces around him. And before the show, Darren and I were talking just about everybody needs pieces around them. You look at Tua, he's going to need pieces.
Yeah.
Justin Fields, they're going to need pieces around them. And it's up to the team to actually put that together. And that's, I mean, you guys are lucky because you've had a couple of different GMs over the past 5 to 6 years really look at it long term to be able to put together a team like this, to have certain pieces that just work together. And that's what Baltimore is failing to do. And that's why they aren't going to AFC championship games.
So are you saying, does he need to have
he needs pieces?
I mean, just looking at receivers, do you think that he needs to have a star wide receiver like a Tyreek Hill or like
I wouldn't say a star. You need somebody reliable. I think you need somebody that's able to catch passes outside of just the tight end. Like Travis, when the Chiefs need a catch, it's either Travis or Tyreek. When the Ravens need a catch, it's normally Lamar running.
That's fair. That's a good point.
Yeah. All right. Let's get to our predictions. I don't know why Darren looked to the side.
I was just thinking, like, start with Q first, so I can
we talked about it on Saturday. What is your predictions looking like for this season?
For the Chiefs this season, especially in the the NFC East, I mean, the Giants and Washington, I don't see them putting up much of a fight. And I mean, they play them between the months of October and November. The Chiefs will probably roll. Oh, my goodness.
Hey, Chiefs get to face off against Tyler Heineke or something, don't it? Because
and that's
I mean, come on.
And that's the tough thing, because I mean, they've got the Packers late in the season. They've got the Steelers late in the season, which I don't see them doing much either. You're treading on a 12-4, 13-3 season. I'm just gonna stick with 12-4 to say they hit a rough patch. Maybe they lose 2 games in a row
because of 17 games.
Oh yeah, I forget they added. Yeah, I forget they added a game. So yeah, 12-5. I wouldn't even say
15-2.
I'll stay with 12-5 because I don't see them losing 5 games. So let's say 13-4.
That's where I'm at. I'm right there, 13-4. I have 13-4 for sure. And
I mean, because if we're looking at the schedule, I see them maybe losing the Titans game, maybe losing a Bills game, and then a Packers game, and that's all maybes. And then maybe they split with the Raiders, but that split could probably be with the Chargers. So I don't really see them losing more than 4 games. Being healthy.
And here it is again. You have another season where you're going to get everybody's best. So teams that you didn't think would fare with this team, they're going to play out of their minds just because they're playing against Patrick Mahomes. And we say that the past few years we've said this. It's like you're going to have guys like Baker Mayfield, like Josh Allen, the Justin Herbert, those guys that, I mean, even Derek Carr. You're going to have those guys that are like, all right, I'm gonna try to put up numbers like Patrick Mahomes, so that way they feel like they need to keep up. And I think
that's the trap.
Yeah.
And that's the trap that the Browns fell into yesterday in the second half. And I think when you have quarterbacks like Josh Allen and Baker Mayfield, guys that really aren't proven, and we can say that these guys aren't proven to be the superstars that they're allowed it to be. I don't think you can carry that on your team. I think yesterday Nick Chubb should have had the ball in the third quarter. He should have had the ball in the fourth quarter. Him and Kareem should have traded off, pounded down the Chiefs' throat, inside, outside, whichever way it goes. And they got too cocky because they were controlling the pace of the game through the whole first half. So yeah, I don't see many teams keeping up with scoring. I don't see many quarterbacks keeping up with putting up the points unless it's Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, because I don't even see the Eagles really doing much with them, especially being as new and as young as they are.
Yeah, I have AFC Championship game. I have the Chiefs and the Browns. Of course, the Chiefs heading into the Super Bowl, and then on NFC side, I have believe I had the Seattle Seahawks and the Green Bay Packers, I believe.
No, you had Tampa Bay.
Seattle Seahawks and Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Tampa Bay moving on, and it'd be a rematch And this will be the farewell tour for the one and only Tom Brady, with Patrick Mahomes knocking him off his pedestal at the end. Rematch. Yep, Super Bowl. Darren, what is your prediction for this?
You putting see you want me to go undefeated because look, man. Hey, look, man. I always premise this like this. Last year they could have gone undefeated. Of course, look, in their Raiders game last year, they had two first quarter touchdowns called back. That was 14. They'd have been up 14-0 had things, and then things might have turned out differently. And then, we're looking at week 17 against the Chargers and a different light. They might go 16 and then so. Be it as it may, I cannot in good conscience go 12-5, 13-4. I'm going to say, looking at the team, look, we all know that to beat Kansas City, you got to score 30-some-odd points. I think it might have been one game that Patrick has started that they might have lost scoring 20-some points, but I can't remember which game, if there was one that said, but most of the games we saw in the Super Bowl, 31-9. The game that they lost with the Raiders was a 33-35 or something type of ball game that they lost at Arrowhead last year. So you got to look at teams that can actually score and put those points on the board. Potentially, you could look at the Cowboys, coming from behind because that's how they get a lot of their points. You look at obviously Buffalo. You look at Green Bay, of course, if they don't play like they did on Sunday. I am going to go 15-2. Now, here's the one thing that I always mess with Chiefs fans about, that nobody ever wants to pick them going undefeated, but they never pick the games that they're going to lose when the game's actually, when it's time. So if they were to lose, I could see them losing to Aaron Rodgers at home. If they come with their boots straight, and then I could also see them lose, and it's crazy because you see two home losses, but I could see them losing at home to the Steelers because the Steelers defensively are much, much better than what people think. Now, if they don't lose that game with the Steelers, it could be the last game on the road in Denver, which, that by that time they might have the season, they might have the number one seed wrapped up, and we'll see them rest players, and, we'll let the Chiefs fall where they may. But if they were to go undefeated, it wouldn't surprise me because it really is hard for me to see when we go week in, week out, whether Steve and I, when we're on the road or whatever, it's hard for me to see a team, one, have better talent, roster, top to bottom, starting lineup to what Kansas City will put out there. And then because we've seen how literally, and Steve and I, we were talking about this in the press box yesterday, it's like, man, Patrick's going to do something. He's got to do it because time becomes the enemy of the Chiefs. And then what happens? One play, 75-yard touchdown. And then next, the crowd gets involved. 4 and out or 3 and out. Yeah, the 3 and out, for the Browns. Chiefs tackle the punter, within the red zone for them, and then they turn around and score, and now they're up. So things like that can happen. And so with Patrick Mahomes, you're never out of a ball game. You literally have to blow them out, a la what Tampa Bay did, because if you don't, you give Patrick any type of time, man. Let me just stop because I'm gonna go 17-0. So let me just. When you look at the playoffs, I'm sorry, but the playoffs, I've got Chiefs, Tampa Bay, Electric Boogaloo in the Super Bowl, with this time being a different outcome than what took place last year.
The losses for the Chiefs, just looking at the schedule, I have Cowboys, I have Titans, I have Chargers. I think the Chargers are. I think the Chargers
or LA.
Cute. Yeah, I have them here. I have them losing here.
Well, that's next Sunday.
Two Sundays from now.
Oh wow, Steve.
Yeah. So,
but you have them losing to the Cowboys. Okay,
I do have them losing to the Cowboys. I think.
Okay.
I mean,
let's put some dew on that, Steve. Let's put some dew on that.
We put a couple of Red Bulls on it. Just a case of bull.
Case of bull for you. A case of water for me. Let's do it.
All right, bet. Okay. Let's do that. Yeah. Q, you want in on this bet?
I don't bet on football. Never.
All right, so
we got to get Q when they play the Eagles. That's what we got to. We got to.
I will never bet on football.
All right, yeah. So those are the 4 losses for me. But I mean, I still have them, being one going, of course, winning the playoffs and then going to the Super Bowl. So today has been fun, guys. It really has. Season 3 for us. Next week we'll be live down at Soiree.
Yeah.
I cannot wait. to fill it with Chiefs Kingdom, even though Q will be the only one in there that does not like the
Philly green.
Wearing green. Yeah.
Yeah, Philly green.
Of course. To each and everyone that has liked us on Facebook, liked us on our respective platforms, we appreciate it. Remember, you can follow myself at Steve Walls KC. Also follow the W Show where you can see me and Q and also Jazz and Noel each and every Saturday morning, 11 a.m. to noon. Darren, where can they find you?
You can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Darren Smith WHB. Of course, my show page, the Ship with Darren Smith. I'll be starting back streaming. Now that I kind of had the big reveal on yesterday, I'll start back streaming the Darren and Sterling show beginning tomorrow. And then, of course, you can catch Steve and I pregame Sundays with our pregame cheat sheet. So this year, Steve and I will be back on the road. We'll be in Baltimore, Maryland for Sunday Night Football covering the Chiefs. And then we'll be back here at Arrowhead and, of course, right here on the Red Hour. And
Q, where can people find you?
DJQspin.me. Everything is there. And then download the Up Down Nightlife app, especially for iPhone users. Get on that phone, download the app.
Do that. Until next week, we are out of here.
Peace.
The views and opinions expressed in the W Radio Show by the host, co-host, guests, and call-in listeners are solely the opinions and responsibility of the original source who expressed them. They do not represent the opinions of the W Show, 100.1 FM, One Kansas City Radio, Sideline Sports Talk, Team Wall Street Foundation, or affiliates.